Hello fellow book nerds, this is Gabby and today we're going to talk about all the books I read in March. So, March. 11 books, none of them 1 hour audiobook like last month, so I think we nailed it. I'm really happy with these. We do have a lot to get through, but a couple of them I made videos for, a couple of them I will make videos for, so just know if I'm like rushing through some of them and just like telling you more or less what it's about, it's because you can check out the full video where I give you like all the thoughts at every point. So I will link the videos up above if that does happen. But the first book we have was actually just a book I read, which was Wicked As You Wish by Rincho Pecco. I have read from this author before. They are the author of Bone Witch series, so I've read that one. And this is their newest book. So this one's actually a YA and it feels like I read it so long ago. I was actually really surprised when I looked at it. I haven't talked about this book before because I feel like I have because I read it such a long time ago, like beginning of the month. But this was my buddy read with Hanan, so thank you for being my buddy read friend and always being awesome and having awesome opinions. This book is a really wild amalgamation of like a magical story set in a real world, so like an urban fantasy, but it's not really our world, so it's kind of high. It's very bizarre. We follow Tala, who's I think part Filipino. Yeah, her mom is Filipino and she lives in America in this town that's kind of devoid of magic. It's really famous for being like anti-magic place, and she herself actually is what's known as, I don't remember the name for it, but a thing that like sucks magic. So basically magic doesn't work around her. If she's like hit with a magic spell, it's not gonna work. If she goes into like a magical place, it's not gonna work. It's like she's an anti-magic kind of thing. She lives in the small town, nothing really happens until one day she meets Alexei, or Alex, who is the prince of this broken kingdom of Avalon. So Avalon was attacked by the Snow Queen many years ago and it has frozen. And because of that, all the people living there had to escape and they basically became refugees living in different countries, and Alex has always had to escape because he's the last remaining royal and people are scared for his life kind of thing. And it's about them going on an adventure, I guess, of bringing back Avalon. I had very mixed opinion on it. First of all, I feel like it should have been a middle grade. I don't really understand why it was a YA. It felt like a middle grade reading it, the style of writing. I thought the characters were 12 up until they said they were 17, and I think their actions really reflected that. They just behaved very juvenile for their age, and I feel like if this was a middle grade in the style of School of Good and Evil, it would have made sense. And I did get that vibe from the Alex and from the main character, like totally. I think middle grade this would have been great, but as a YA I don't really see what the YA brought to the table. It was not like a very explicit, having whatever language, story, everything about it felt middle grade. I don't understand why it's a YA, and I feel like it kind of made it less believable following these characters acting 12 but they're 17, or maybe they're just actually acting like 17-year-olds and I just think that 17-year-olds should be acting like 25-year-olds because of media. But either way, that's the feeling I came out of it with. And the plot itself, it was okay, but nothing really blew me away. It's because it's so long, I don't really remember everything about this in terms of my feelings. I feel like I sound quite negative. I did enjoy it. It was a decent fun read that wasn't too hard to get through. The plot made sense. The characters were kind of likable, especially the main character I really liked. I like having a perspective of a half Filipino character, but it did not captivate me, and it was so much different than Bone Witch actually, which again I liked but I didn't love. And that one was way more serious, super slow, and this one had the opposite problem of being too fast, just super fast at breakneck speed. We just cannot take a breather, we gotta get there. Just like plot was super fast. I feel like, how do you please me? Because I complain about being too slow in the other book, this one's too fast. I don't know, but that's just how I ended up feeling. And I gave it 3 stars. The next 3 books I read were for the mom character vlog that I did, which I'm gonna link up above if you want to see. But basically the premise was that all the main characters are mothers, and for this I have read the 5th season, Wolf of Aeron and Sword of Kaigen. So let me talk about the wolf first. So Wolf of Aeron, in this story we follow our main character. She's the daughter of a warlord, and that warlord made a deal with a warring kingdom that his daughter will marry the prince and they will rule together, therefore ending the war. So she did what she was supposed to. She married the prince, she had a kid with him, but on the day they were supposed to be coronated, husband left, and we don't really know why or what prompted it, but we know that he left her without really explanation, so that she had to deal with warring warlords and driving a kingdom all by herself. And fast forward a couple of years into the future, she hears back from her husband. He says that he wants to reconcile, but she has to come to this other empire kingdom to be on neutral ground so they can negotiate. And then there's an assassination attempt and she has to fend for herself. So that's the basic premise, and it doesn't really stray away from that at all. For a really big bit of it, I was like, what's the plot here? Overall, I did enjoy it, but it didn't blow me away. I thought the character could have really done with a bit more, because her whole character was just trusting people she wasn't supposed to be treating, then being betrayed, and then kind of moving along and doing the same thing again. So I just didn't connect with her, and like the book series called The Bitch Queen, and I just didn't feel like she was really that ferocious. Like, I just was set up with expectations that were not met, and I think that was my biggest gripe with it. It wasn't that it was anything wrong with it, I just had very specific expectations that were not met, even though I didn't know anything about the plot. So maybe that's on me for like building it up in my head as it's gonna be about this like badass female. Like, even Aeron's a bit more badass than this one, and how is that even possible? I gave it 3 stars, but it's so okay, now let's touch upon The Fifth Seasons by N.K. Jemisin. So in this book we follow a world where there are these people that can kind of control Earth. They can feel the sensations, they can cause earthquakes, that kind of thing. And every once in a while there will be a big outburst when one of them causes like an apocalyptic, world-ending type of event. And because of that, they're kind of scared of them, and they're very hated, and they're persecuted, and they have to go to this academy in order to be trained properly. Otherwise, they're often killed by their own like members of their village and that kind of thing. This book is absolutely amazing, so well written. The action just keeps building and building, and you keep understanding and you keep being heartbroken. It's adult fantasy, so it does have some very upsetting scenes and some very hard topics. And there's a polyamorous relationship, which I really loved, and I thought it was done very well, although I don't have that much experience with it. Overall, I loved it so much. I gave it 5 stars, and I think everyone should read it. Honestly, if you want to hear full spot, again, the video is there, but I loved it. And the last book I read for that video was Sword of Kaigen. So this book we follow a mother who used to be a warrior. So this Misaki, she used to be a warrior, but 15 years ago she married this esteemed warrior, and she settled and became a housewife, and she's given birth to 4 sons, I think. And what's special about her and her family is that they live in this place called the Sword of Kaigen, and the Sword of Kaigen is known as that because they are supposed to be the protectors of the empire and be like the sword that any enemy has to fall on before they want to like take over the empire, the country. So far, my favorite book of 2021. I love it so much. I think it was written beautifully. The plot escalates so much. If you love scenes of battle, I think this will just like hit the right spot. It was so well written. Normally I don't care for it, like battle and fighting, I don't care for it, but this one was absolutely brilliantly done. I love the characters, I love the complexity, the arcs, how everything escalated brilliantly. I loved it so much. I gave it 5 stars, and honestly I will never stop recommending it. The next 3 books I read for another video. So this was for the bookoplathon from Becca's Books. So if you don't know, it's like a readathon where she plays her Bookopoly, which is like a Monopoly type TBR game, and she plays that, and based on that we have prompts and we have to fill it out. And it was 48 hours, so it was a weekend vlog. I have it up above if you want it. But for that one I read The Order of Pure Moon Reflected in Water, Lindsay Home, and Rhapsodic, which I didn't actually finish in the video, so you can hear my thoughts here. So first let's start with Order of Pure Moon Reflected in Water. It's a very short story based on wuxia fantasy, which is a martial arts centered fantasy. So the author draws a lot from Asian mythology and that kind of thing, and it's an Asian inspired world. We follow this group of bandits that find this nun from the Order of Pure Moon reflected in water, and they kind of go onto a heist together. Okay, maybe not a heist, they just go together on a journey. I thought it was really well written for such a short story. It did have a lot of plot and development, character growth, all of that. I really enjoyed it and I would recommend it. I think the audiobook in particular was really good and I gave it 3.5 stars. Next up we have Binti Home, which is the second book in Binti series, and in first book we follow Binti, who is from this tribe that never sends their members outside, basically outside of the tribe, like they don't really travel, whatever. But Binti got this scholarship to join at this very prestigious university on the other side of the galaxy because it's a sci-fi, and she decides to go. And it's again a very short story, so is the sequel. I don't want to tell you what happens in the sequel, but basically it's about Binti dealing with repercussions of the first book, dealing with things like PTSD and her own power. I really enjoyed it. I think it was a good sequel. I wouldn't say I loved it more than the first book because the first book I think was really good, and I listened to the audiobook as well. I don't know if that has something to do with it. And this book I was a little bit confused some of the time because they don't really explain everything overtly. It's more like they just throw these words and you kind of expect it to know what's up, so that was a little bit hindering my experience. It's okay, I could still get along with it. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars as well. So the next book that I started but didn't finish was Rhapsodic. So this is one of Becca's favorite books, so that's why I wanted to pick it up, and it's a dark fairy romance. So we follow the main character who has these like bracelet beads going up and down her arm, and she has like over 300 or something like that. Each one of those beads is a deal she's made with the bargainer, and the bargainer is basically like this dark fae that makes deals with humans, and normally he collects way quicker, but he gave her a lot of slack and now he's come to collect. So that's the basic premise. It is a dark fairy romance, so you know, you can expect some possessiveness, some weird shenanigans. In my video I said that I don't really love how he first approached her when she was 16 years old. I mean, she called him, so it's not like he seeked her out, but still he kept coming. They kept developing this relationship when she was only 16 and he was a grown-ass man. I mean, he's a fairy, so probably he's like immortal or something, but still that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. It really felt like growing to me. And then I did enjoy the plot and the romance in their adult part, so I'm not complaining there. I think that one was actually pretty well done and it was enjoyable, and overall the book I did enjoy. I think the plot itself was quite interesting, especially later when it actually got going, and the romance I could get on board with. I just wanted to mention a couple of like iffy things with the grooming, but yeah, I gave it 2.5 stars because I did not hate it, didn't love it, and I had some reservations about it. The next book I read was Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. I am a part of a co-host of the Daughter of Smoke and Bone read-along. We're doing it in March, April, and May. So if you want to read the first book and then join us for April live show, you can still do it. I will link up the announcement video up above. I mean, if you want to, you can also watch the live show when we discuss it in depth, all of our thoughts, theories, all that kind of thing. For me, it was a reread, but I still really loved it. I really think it held up. It didn't disappoint me. Maybe I had some reservations and didn't love it as much as I remember, but I think that's also part of it being the first book, and I remember really liking this one, but really loving the second and third one. And I know there's a lot of pain coming. Oh, I didn't tell you what it's about. Okay, so in this one we follow Karu, who lives with her chimera family. And chimera are creatures that are like parts of different animals kind of smushed together, and it's all a bit bizarre, but one day her family disappears and she needs to find them. That's very abbreviated version. I feel like I've said the plot of this book multiple times now, so I'm just like a bit tired. Safe to say, I loved it. I gave it 4 stars and I cannot wait to read the sequel, and you can still join us. Like I said, check out the live show because we had some really interesting discussions. Okay, the next book I read was Sweet and Bitter Magic. So this was the book that I reviewed for March. So if you don't know, once a month I review a book that you guys vote on from my video of new releases. I have a whole playlist, I will link it up above. But in that video I go way more in depth about my thoughts. Basically, this book we follow Tamsin, who's a witch who who was exiled from the Witchlands, and she was cursed to never feel love, but not just romantic or familial love, any kind of love. She can't enjoy warm drinks, she can't be warm in general, she can't enjoy colors, sunshine, anything. She can't really enjoy it. The only way she can enjoy it is by taking love from other people. And the other character we have is Ren. So Ren is a devoted daughter who takes care of her father, who's gotten sick, but she's also what's called a source, and a source is not a witch per se, but she does have magic and she kind of produces a magic. So a witch can like tap into her power in order to increase her own. Ren goes to Tamsin to find a cure for her father, but in turn she will have to give up her love for him. I really love the premise. I think it was a potential for a lot of heartbreak. Oh, this is a female romance, by the way, fantasy. I saw potential in it and I did quite enjoy it. I think it was well written. I just the type of YA that I don't really gravitate towards anymore. It was a bit too simple, a bit too straightforward, a bit too YA, if that's in any way okay to express my feelings this way. Anyway, it wasn't bad, but I didn't love it. I gave it 3 stars, and I would recommend it if you enjoy some female romance. Next, I read Love Beyond Body, Space and Time, which is an indigenous LGBT sci-fi anthology. So this is literally just a collection of short stories from indigenous authors about like a lot to do with two-spirit concept and gender fluidity, that kind of thing. I read this for a secret video, which if you've been following my list of secret videos, you probably know what the secret video is, and I also am posting that video later this week, so I would subscribe if you're really curious to hear my full thoughts. Safe to say I did really enjoy it, and I think it was very interesting. Again, full thoughts, you gotta subscribe. And the last book I read, the 11th book, was The Hero of Ages, which is the 3rd book in Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson. So in the first book we follow Vin, who has her whole life she's been kind of bossed around, thrown about, like she experienced a lot of violence in her life and a lot of sadness. And she joins a crew of people who want to overthrow the government, and basically what's special about this is that the Dark Lord won. The evil guy won, and he's been ruling the earth for 1,000 years. So that's that, and they just wanna like get rid of that guy. And what's really cool about this world is the magic system. So basically there's like several metals that you can ingest, and depending on what metal you ingest, you have different superpower. And if you're what's called Mistborn, you can ingest all of them and have all the powers. That's the first book. We're quite removed from it by now. And my history, I love the first book. I kind of like the second one, but it was just really slow, so much politics, a slog to get through, and only the last little bit was interesting, which does tend to be true for very long books. But this 3rd book, there was not a dull point, no point where I was like, I don't want to read this, I'm bored. Not at all. I loved it so much. I kept wanting to keep listening because I listened to the audiobook. I thought it was just so well done. Every plot point was interesting. So much happened in the book. The runtime was kind of earned in my opinion, definitely. And I just loved it so much with all the characters and all of that. I think the author did such a good job in wrapping up this series. I quite like the ending. I think it was quite poetic, although it was a bit like what, and now I just keep thinking about it in my head. I'm just like, what even happened? What? I was so surprised. I did not think I love it, because the second book I was just like, can this end? Please just end. But this time I think I was just like ready. I was ready to accept this. It's gonna take forever for me to get through this book, but I will, and I did, and I loved it, and it wasn't even a slog. I don't know what to tell you. If you are holding off like me because of the second book, because you felt it was too slow, don't worry. I think it's remedied in this one, except at least I feel completely different about this one than I did in the second book. I gave it 5 stars. I cannot wait to continue with his other books. I have Way of Kings on Audible. It's 45 hours long, but I think I will really enjoy it. So I would highly recommend finishing that series. Just so good. And there you go, that's all the books I read in March. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and also let me know if you read any of these books. I would be really curious to say, do you agree with me, disagree? I feel like 11 books is really good for me, but like so many of them I already made videos for that I don't really feel like I have to talk to you for 50 years. So I feel like this is a good middle ground to my very long wrap-ups that would go on and on about all the books. I I was so happy when I read 5th season and Sword of Kaigen, because that's my first 5-star reads of the month. And then also I read Mistborn, which is also 5 stars. So I think we had 3 5 stars, if I'm not mistaken. And I was just so happy, because I was feeling a bit down with my reading, and then it just came back up and been amazing. Anyway, I just keep rambling now, so I want to say thank you so much for watching. If you could like, comment and subscribe, it really helped me out. But otherwise, I'll see you in my next video.